Hi, this is Dewana bringing intuitive healing to you today. Today, I want to talk about a wake up call. I want to talk about triggers. I want to speak about empaths being triggers at this time, along with the collective, which is the whole, the universal whole. So, when you're being triggered, it's to bring you out of the awareness of the illusion that you've created for yourself. It's kind of like a volcano having fault lines. And sooner or later, it hasn't erupted in a while, but eventually it will erupt due to small tremors triggering the fault line. So that's what our emotions and our feelings and our art field, our energy field is like when we're being triggered. It's an emotional fault line. And if you don't soothe those fault lines through those triggers by allowing yourself to not react, but more or less respond and be observant, it can cause a huge eruption in the universal whole as far as the collective whole. So, right now, people around you are being triggered as well because we have a lot of people in our society. Um, they walk as though there's nothing wrong with them, they're perfect, they have it all together. It's an illusion. And now, through the universal spiritual cycle of loss that we are experiencing at this moment, all the things that they buried or we buried and didn't deal with, now they're going to come up. We're also in Mercury retrograde in Scorpio season. So whenever Mercury goes into retrograde, depending on the planetary rotation at that moment, it's going to either be a soft retrograde or a turbulence in a retrograde or a retrograde of compassion and love for yourself and others. So right now, the retrograde we're dealing with, it has to do with universal laws of lessons of things coming up from the past, whether that's an old relationship, an old job, old people that you are no longer dealing with from your past now coming up, old situations that you didn't deal with in your inner healing for your inner child. All those things are coming up. So they're coming up so you can level yourself up on a spiritual level. So as an empath, you're truly being triggered so you can deal with these emotional wounds so you can help other people deal with their emotional wounds as well. But the thing is, you're very sensitive to certain sensations around you. And throughout your life and your childhood, you've been equipped on a very sensitive level to deal with these triggers because it's part of your gift. You've been doing it your whole lifetime. So you've always been in the battlefield. You are a wounded warrior. And through that wounded warrior, you're able to bring healing to yourself and others. So right now, you are in this collective whole so you can help others soothe their triggers. So somebody has to be the calming force. Everyone can't be that person that goes to war. And a lot of times we go to war when we don't understand other people's perceptions or we feel like they're wrong and we're right, versus understanding as a collective whole, you do unto others as you do unto yourself, or you do unto yourself as you do unto others. So that means that universally, we're all connected. So what you put out, you get back. So you want to be that karmic force. Because right now we're dealing with a lot of karmic issues and karmic laws and karmic lessons. So when you're dealing with someone that's wound up and they're erupting or about to erupt, whether that's a conversation between you and them one-on-one or a collective group of people, you don't want to be that triggering force. You want to be that soothing force because universally what you're putting out, and as you soothe those tremors, because that's what they are, they're emotional triggers, which are tremors. So when you soothe them, it actually goes into the universal collective as an energy whole. So it heals us all collectively as a whole. So the turbulence that you're going through is not going to be as difficult. When you think about the hurricanes, tsunamis, volcanoes, when you think about natural disasters, you have to also think about, as a collective whole, we are going through birth pains. The earth is actually going through birth pains because spiritually we're going through a new birthing cycle. So we're ending old cycles and we're coming through new cycles through the spiritual law of evolution. So this also brings and ties in the laws of attraction. So through the laws of attraction, your mindset or your perception brings in what you put out or what you think about. Whatever you're giving the most energy to, you're going to get that back in return. So when you're dealing with people that are now having to come to the reality that I've buried a lot of things inside and I forgot about them from my childhood or through my teenage life or even through my adult life. You find people who prefer to forget about those things, and when they come up, they bury them. And when they bury them, they're not actually healing them or surpassing them for a brief moment, but then they come right back up again, and they may be buried again. And that person is walking around like they have everything together, but they're truly not. And that's how disease manifests. That's how bitterness, anger manifests. And it turns into disease and ailments of the body. So now we're all being triggered as a whole. And as an empath, the gift that you're most sensitive to, or the energy you're most sensitive to, that's the sensation or the trigger that you will feel most, because that's the trigger or the wound that needs to be healed on a deeper level. And that deeper level or that deeper wound will allow you to connect to other people on a much deeper level, on an energetic field, so you can heal them as well. So you have healing energy in your hands, and it all comes from the emotional wounds that you experience yourself. So now you are a wounded healer. So when you're dealing with your triggers and other people's triggers, you want to be an observer. Do not respond, do not react. Show compassion, show love, show non-judgment, and just soothe the trigger from the other person. Like, don't escalate the situation. Don't go back and forth, because now you're feeding into the negativity and the lower vibration of the 3D dimension. And that's something we don't want to do, because we want to elevate and we want to level up our spiritual awareness and our spiritual consciousness and growth. So we're not operating in the subconscious mind, but we're focusing on the here and now, which is now you creating your new reality. So what's most important is understanding that you're here for a divine purpose and you want to thrive. You don't want to survive. So when someone is being triggered around you, and you respond on a 3D lower negative vibration, now you're surviving. You're going back to that old programming where we were programmed to operate in fear, lack, not feeling worthy, jealousy, envy. And you don't want those emotions to rule you, because it keep you held back and it keep you operating in the energy field where you're not healing yourself. So when you feed into that negativity, you're now regressing and you're falling back, and you're not truly operating in your gift. So you want to operate in your gift by understanding that passion that you have inside of you. Maybe as a child you were like, hey, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor, and it didn't happen, or it did happen. But now you may be saying, there's something else. There's an inner passion that's driving me. There's an inner source that's making me thrive. Like, it's something buried inside of me that wants to come up. And I assure you, it's your gift. And it's a gift of healing. So you probably ignored that gift, or that gift probably went dormant because people didn't believe in your thoughts and your ideas. Or you may be afraid of the DNA collective memory that we have as a whole, from people being burned at the stake, for midwives, herbalist women, or you can say mystics, people that believe in natural healing and spiritual healing. Spiritual healing comes from the heart. It's not the same as analytical thinking or thinking from the mind. It deals with energy. It deals with alchemy. It's something totally different. In a sense, it's a science, but it's a science that you may not necessarily, where you can't prove necessarily by vision, because a lot of people are analytical thinkers and they have to be able to put numbers together, put words together, see it, solve the puzzle by letters, numbers, and words. So when you're dealing with energy, it's on a different level, and it's not like that. So as a collective whole, we've always been taught for centuries, if you believe in herbal medicine or you were a herbalist, you work with herbs, that was witchcraft. You were a witch. If you believed in energy work or energy healing, working with stones, that was witchcraft. If you believe in mysticism, like just the angelic realm, the invisible realm that we can't see, entities that are negative and positive ions and electrons in the atmosphere, you could be burned by the stake if you can see things before it happened. If you were considered a psychic and you didn't consider yourself a seer or a prophet, it would be you being burned by the stake. So now you're shutting down your spiritual gifts and you're not operating in them, and they're becoming dormant because you're not able to thrive. Now you're only trying to survive. And when you're trying to survive, you're not worrying about yourself and you're not fulfilling the true happiness that you have within you, your true inner being. Now you're only worried about the collective whole and what they think, because history repeats itself over and over again, and it shows us if we are not part of the masses, well, we're not a part of the group. So we're going to be bullied. We're going to be bullied into believing or thinking the way the masses or the collective think. When you think like that, you're only surviving. You're not fueling that passion. You're not thriving. So if you're not thriving, you're feeling as though you're not worthy. If you're not worthy, now you're not operating in your true abundance. And if you want to operate in your true abundance, you have to be truly authentic to who you are and your true self. So when you're being authentic to your true self, you have to say to yourself, no matter what, I'm doing my inner healing. I know there's a gift within me. I know I'm here for a higher purpose. And that higher purpose is going to help you thrive. That higher purpose help you heal yourself. That higher purpose help you go into a spiritual healing project, a spiritual healing business, where now you're thriving not by only using your mind, but you're using your mind's eye, your third eye, which God give us that gift. And we have melatonin in our third eye to actually help us with our intuition. So now you're being led by intuition and faith, not by hopes or fear. That's why I'm not really big on sports when it comes to anything where it has to deal with competitive nature. Because when you're being competitive, and I have to be very careful and weary of this myself, when it comes to me trying to create, I do affiliate marketing, and when it comes to me thinking about the financial part, like bringing in money through the affiliation of the marketing, I have to step back from the project because it starts interfering with my spiritual awareness and the spiritual projects that I have that I'm working on. So a lot of times when you're dealing with finances in that nature, you start thinking, hey, like, I gotta get this, I gotta do this, I gotta bring this money in. And when you start focusing on money, now all of a sudden you feel like you're lacking something or it's not enough. So it's the same concept when you're dealing with sports, when you're dealing with separation of religion, creed, color, things of that nature. So as a universal whole, as long as you understand that everybody's connected, every energy source is connected, and we all need to operate in love with an open heart, compassion, and forgiveness, non-judgment, but understanding that everybody have their own perception and it's multi-dimensional ways that we can think of an outcome. So there's so many levels of so many different outcomes that you can come up with. So when you understand that it's not good to operate in self-lack, unworthiness, comparing yourself to others, competing, because competing is the driving force to make you feel like you're not operating in abundance and you're operating in lack. Because if you're competing, you are really wishing another person's demise. You're really wishing for their loss. You're not wishing for their abundance. You're not wishing for their birthright in wealth and riches. You're wishing for the complete opposite. So when you do those things, you may win at the moment, or you may get what you want at the moment through drive and determination, because that's how the 3D matrix is set up. But once you pull yourself out of that matrix, you realize you're not truly thriving in abundance. You're thriving because you're trying to, well, you're not thriving. You're moving forward as though it seems, because you're trying to survive. So at that point, you do whatever it is in your human nature to survive. But when you step outside of that survival mode and you fuel that the divine passion that you have by God, the spirit source, when you fuel that passion, now you're thriving. So you're truly thriving in abundance, your true birthright, your riches and your wealth that you have coming to you. So what you're putting out, you're getting back. So that's the nature of the triggers that we're going through right now as a universal whole. So you're going to have those lessons. If you want to pass those lessons, be compassionate to others, love with an open heart, and understand as an empath, you are here to heal yourself. And through your emotional wounds, now you have the know-how, the insight, the intuition, and the wisdom to heal others. So this is a call, a wake-up call to say to you, hey, you have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of wisdom, you have a lot of understanding. So you have a lot of information in you. And right now, you can move forward. You can start this healing process with yourself and others. It's a wake-up call however you want to do it. You're not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. This is new to me. But I'm truly operating in a gift of purpose to help other people. So I'm thriving in it, and it brings me joy, and it brings me healing at the same time. So I'm going to make mistakes along the way. But the thing is, you see my growth and you see my journey. And throughout that process of it being documented, you're going to say, okay, like, you know what? Something resonates with me, because it's all about what resonates with you. And the things that resonate with you can cause a trigger in others, or it can cause a trigger in yourself. But understand that whenever someone is being triggered, that's a moment and an opportunity for them to heal, and also for you to heal and level up on a spiritual level, so you can truly operate in your abundance and in your blessings, because that's what it's all about. As a human being on this earth, we are still spiritual beings living a human existence or a human experience. But I want to come in for a moment, talk to you guys about that, because that's the season we in right now. That's the transition we in right now with universal law, universal karma, cause and effect. And you want everything to work out for your highest good, for your highest timeline. And these are the ways and the actions that we need to take to go about it. So it does me no good to hold all this information within me when I know I truly have a purpose to fulfill, and it's to share what I know and to share my journey. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening. It's always a pleasure. You guys have a blessed night.